very critical of many of the conclusions to which Maimonides came in his halachic decisions, and the hasagot of Ravad on Maimonides are well known. Less well known to many people is that the Ravad is one of the key figures in the transmission of the Kabbalah. And I'd like to read you a few words from the late Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan's invaluable work on these subjects, meditation and Kabbalah of Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, in which he writes in his chapter on the earlier schools of the Kabbalah, on page 117, that there were a number of schools contemporary to the foundational Rabbi Abraham Abulafia, the father of Kabbalistic meditation, and the most important of these schools was in Provence, in France, heir to the mystical teachings of the Bahir, which was published in the late 1100s. Until the 12th century, the Kabbalah had been a carefully concealed mystery in the hands of a few very small and restricted secret societies. So hidden were these that some of the greatest rabbinical leaders were not even aware of their existence. The first ones to break this silence were the Kabbalists of Provence. The earliest known members of this school were Isaac and Jacob Nazir, both of Lunel. The title Nazir indicated that they had separated themselves from all worldly activities, devoting all their time to worship and the study of the Torah. The community supported a number of such individuals, creating an atmosphere where the contemplative life necessary for the teachings of the Kabbalah and its methods could flourish. Another important member of this group was Rabbi David ben Isaac, head of the rabbinical court, whose son, the famed Ravad, that I've been speaking about, Rabbi Avram ben David Posker, the author also of the glosses on Maimonides, was a master of the mystical arts. Ravad received the tradition from his father, as well as from his father-in-law, the famed Rabbi Avraham ben Isaac of Narbonne, best known as the author of the Eshkol. In his legal commentaries, the Ravad actually writes that his school was subject to divine inspiration and the revelations of mysteries. The Ravad's son, known as Isaac the Blind, inherited the leadership of the school from his father and brought it to Provence. Even though he was blind, he was reputed to be able to look into a person's soul and to see his thoughts. In his commentary on the Torah, Rabbi Bachya ben Asher calls him the father of Kabbalah. Rabbi Isaac the Blind had two disciples, Rabbi Ezra and Rabbi Azriel of Gerona, who assumed leadership of the school and authored a number of very interesting books on the Kabbalah. It is from them that the Kabbalah tradition passed to the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachmanides, who lived from 1194 to 1270, one of the most important religious scholars and leaders of the period. And we may conclude that it was from the Ramban that the teaching came down eventually to Rabbi Isaac Luria, the master of the Kabbalah of 16th century Tzfat. But to get back to Ravad's commentary on Sefer Yetzirah, one of the most precious parts of this commentary is its very extensive introduction. It's 20 pages of Hebrew text here, with each one of which would probably cover 4 or 5 pages of a regular size of book, and pretty dense with lots of interesting diagrams and of one kind and another. But what is most remarkable about this work is that, for our purposes, Ravad bases his whole introduction on the 50 gates of understanding, the Chamishim Sha'arei Binah, which he explains in his way of Kabbalah according to all of the 50 questions that God asks of Job in our chapters of 38 onwards. So Ravad indeed reveals the secret, and he tells us in his introduction, which we will not be learning in detail, but will, God willing, refer to. Ravad tells us that these were explanations and interpretations that he had received from his teachers. And the important point here is that with the enormous flights of eloquence in these coming chapters, there's no comparison between the eloquence of the Hebrew of the Tanakh with even the most eloquent of the great poets of secular literature. For one who grew up in Britain with the staple diet of English literature being the plays of William Shakespeare, who has some extraordinary, beautiful and inspiring and moving passages. But when we look at our Hebrew text, we have to understand that the eloquence of these verses that we will be coming to, their beauty, their astonishing beauty in the English translation, let alone the original beautiful, stately Hebrew, this is not separate from the unfathomable depths of these words which are coming out of the storm wind from the mouth of God. In other words, Job was privy to the revelation of the 50 gates of understanding. And so we've come to the climax of this work of Job, which is all about initiating us into the ways of wisdom, following Job, that we should never suffer anything of those sufferings. But through our study of these works and through our attempts to empathize and to understand and to reflect and to learn about our situation, we are now being brought to this section which is of profound depth, where every verse is not merely a rhetorical flourish, but is a mystical teaching with innumerable overtones, explaining to us the very secrets of the creation. And this is what we may gain from the commentary of Rabbi Avraham ben David of Posker, the Ra'avad, from his introduction to Sefer Yetzirah, built upon the 50 questions that God puts to Job in Job chapters 38 onwards. And in our coming sessions, we will be looking at the Hebrew text and the commentaries on this amazing section. So with that, my friend, we will now for today leave our thoughts about the Tanakh, coming, God willing, in the coming week to actual study of these amazing Hebrew texts. And we'll take now a brief interval, after which I'll be back with a little more time than we've had recently for our Mishnah studies, in order to proceed with another very important and basic section of our Torah, the laws of circumcision. So I'll be back in just a few minutes.
Shabbos, Shuloim, in Vairo, hey, lay, 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 la, la, la.